Welcome everyone to this session on privacy and security, what's new in version 9 of the Australian curriculum. This session will focus on Foundation to Year 2. My name is Sue Carter and I'm a senior educator with Grok Academy. I've been a primary school teacher for 37 years in the Northern Territory. In that time, I've taught all primary year levels from Foundation to Year 6, along with being a PE specialist, teacher librarian and technologies teacher. Over the past 20 years, I've worked in developing teacher professional learning in ICT and technologies and worked as a curriculum consultant for technologies, the arts, health and PE, and more recently STEM. With me today is my co-host, Marnie Power.
Hi Sue, hi everyone. I've been working as a specialist teacher in primary schools, teaching prep to grade 6 in the areas of digital technology and STEM. As teachers, both Sue and I know the challenges of working with this age group and particularly with technology, and we hope that this webinar can give you practical, ready-to-use resources and activities to help you teach this area of the version 9 digital technologies curriculum. This webinar is part 5 of a 7-part series focusing on the changes to the Australian curriculum in relation to digital technologies from version 8 to version 9. Our goals for today's session are to unpack the concept of privacy and security, to examine the changes in the Australian curriculum from version 8 to version 9 in relation to the digital technology for the year levels of Foundation to Year 2, and to explore specific lesson ideas and assessment opportunities in your classroom in relation to privacy and security. In this 45-minute session, the goals are to define the concept of privacy and security, to examine the changes to the Australian curriculum version 9, to explore the lesson ideas for Foundation, Year 1 and Year 2, and to consider your assessment opportunities for your classroom.
So let's take a look at what privacy and security looks like in version 9 of the Australian curriculum. To start our privacy and security journey, we begin with the Australian curriculum definition. In the glossary, privacy is defined as the ability of an individual or group to control who can use or see information about themselves. Information privacy is related to how personal data and information is handled. As more and more data is created, used to verify who we are, and becomes available online, individuals, including students, need to be aware of how to keep personal information protected. The Australian privacy principles are the cornerstone of privacy protection framework in the Privacy Act of 1988. It is essential that as teachers, we understand our rights and obligations for both our own data and that of our students. The Australian Privacy Principles website can provide you with more information on the collection, use and disclosure of personal information, organisation or agency's governance and accountability, integrity and correction of personal information, and the rights of individuals to access their personal information. All of this aligns with the Australian curriculum definition. And taking a look at security, the Australian Curriculum version 9 glossary defines security as the assurances that resources such as data are protected, free from risk and reliable. For example, any data that's going to be transmitted should be encrypted first. And with so many recent data breaches, it's important that our information is protected and secure. And as we move to more and more digital systems with data storage, students need to understand the importance of keeping their information safe and secure. We as teachers also need to ensure their information remains safe. Similarly to the privacy example just provided, security is also governed by a set of national principles. The 4 key areas are governance in identifying and managing security risks, implementing controls to reduce security risks, detecting and understanding our cybersecurity events to identify any security incidents, and to respond to and recover from any cybersecurity threats. So it's essential that as teachers, we understand the importance of maintaining levels of security over both our own data and that of students. This also aligns with the Australian curriculum's definition. When we delve a bit deeper into the curriculum, we find that privacy and security is a new core concept in version 9 of the Australian curriculum. It is specific to digital technologies and is a substrand of the processes and production skills. Here, it is focused on the protection of data when it is stored or transmitted through digital systems. So in this substrand, we aim for students to develop appropriate skills for managing data, which is personal, and effectively implementing security protocols. In the early years, this begins with understanding that data can be personal and collected, and progressively moves to students developing skills in managing and collecting their own and others' users' data. Students investigate how online applications and network systems collect their data, and they explore strategies to manage their own digital footprint. We want students to learn the importance of effective security protocols. They need to access their own personal accounts, either through the school or at home, and they need to progress from using simple usernames and passwords in the early years to passphrases and multi-factor authentication to protect them from any cybersecurity threats as they get older. Privacy and security was embedded in the content descriptions in version 8.4, and the references were made to safe use and safe online environments. In version 9, you can see that the content descriptions are a bit more specific in the language used for what is expected when operating in safe environments. So now let's take a more detailed look at what this new core concept of privacy and security really means. To begin with, the foundation is a new area that's been separated from years 1 and 2. And in the strand of processes and production skills, you'll find privacy and security as the substrand. For foundation, the focus is to understand and identify differences between personal and private data, and how websites and apps that they use can also use and display their personal data. For years 1 and 2, the processes and production skills substrand includes a content description about accessing school accounts and the importance of usernames and passwords. We also address what it means to store and share personal data within apps and online, remembering that this needs to be secure. This graphic shows the progression of privacy and security concepts from foundation all the way through to year 10. It's good practice for teachers to look at the content that's expected to have been taught at levels below where they are and look at the ones above to consider what's next. This is particularly important if students have not engaged in digital curriculum previously. We start with identifying personal and private data and account access in the junior years. And then we move on to password security and awareness of their own digital footprint. In the later years, we're moving into them analysing their own data usage through more complex concepts of cybersecurity threats and privacy principles in years 9 and 10. So let's just pause for a moment and recap on the information I've presented so far. What words come to mind for you if we're teaching about privacy and security? Press pause for a moment and jot down some ideas. When you have 3 or 4, continue watching this video. Let's take a look at some of the words that we've discussed so far. Identity, usernames, passwords, personal data, public data, data storage, sharing data, being cyber aware, being cyber safe, and trusted adults fit into this picture as well. These are all important words to be using with students while we're working and teaching about privacy and security. Now that we've a bit of a background in the concept, along with the changes that have been applied in version 9 of the curriculum, we now need to take a look at how we're going to plan and teach. Using the cycle of what do I teach, how will I teach it, and how will I know that students have learnt it? We need to think about what it is that we're going to teach. To do this, we need to read through the content descriptions and organise our content. The content descriptions outline exactly what it is you need to teach, and we'll take a closer look at the content descriptions in a moment. Then you need to think about how will I teach it. This could include integrating it with other learning areas and referring to the elaborations for ideas. Consider how you might teach privacy and security within English, or maybe HASS, or the arts and who owns different pieces of artwork, or even maths and science. Keep in mind what pedagogical practices you will use when creating the students' learning experiences. We also need to check how well our students have learnt it. And for this, we refer to the achievement standard for assessment. Remember to consider both formative and summative assessment opportunities where possible.
Now that we've outlined where privacy and security sits in the version 9 of the Australian curriculum, let's take a look at some activities that can assist us to teach privacy and security for the foundation level. So the foundation content description and elaborations show that this area of privacy and security can be addressed using activities that target 1, the difference between personal and public data, 2, apps and websites used at this age, 3, the sharing of personal data, including photos, as well as general safety when being online. So the first activity I would like to share with you is called Data Fortune Cookies. This is just an online program called Interacti that you can create your own content. So this one is targeting the difference between personal and public data. So I'm imagining in a classroom, we would lead a class discussion in what makes data either personal or public. We would select students to just click on each fortune cookie. And as the class, we would decide whether sharing your favorite color is personal data or public data. So personal being too sensitive information about yourself, and public data being, just information that you can share with strangers. What do you think, Sue, in this example?
I think that favourite colour is public, and I wouldn't mind people knowing, and I don't think they could identify me by knowing what colour I like.
Yeah, great. Exactly. Public data. Let's do one more.
Wonder what private might be. Oh, my address.
Maybe my address. Yes. So too personal to share. So we classify that as personal data. Another way you could do this with the class is having 2 hula hoops on the floor, and kids write on pieces of paper different information, and they have to decide whether it goes into the personal data hula hoop or the public data hula hoop.
Oh, password just came up.
Ooh,
I think that's very private.
Very private. So personal data for that one. And the next activity is about apps and websites used at this age. So this is just a slide with different programs that students this age might have encountered, such as school-based ones like Reading Eggs, Mathletics, Seesaw, but also Minecraft and Roblox and other apps or websites that they might use outside of school. So they're a good starting point to open a discussions on how they use them. You could pose questions like, do you recognize any of these? Do you need logins for these? How do you create your login? How do you remember your login? Are there any school logins that you have to remember? How do you remember these? Do you share these details with anyone? What would happen if you did share these details? Would you say a login is personal or public data? Again, getting them thinking about that. And do they have trusted adults that they could check regarding age limits on apps and websites, because some of them are for 13 plus and would be consulting parents on those apps and websites.
And many children in our primary years are using apps that are for 13 plus. And I think we need to make people aware of the dangers of that as well. The
next example is related to the sharing of personal data, including photos. So as part of this class discussion around websites and apps that students use, you can also discuss the idea of protecting your personal information, including your photo of yourself, using an avatar as an alternative, so they can have fun in creating their own avatars online. So Google and Microsoft Suites have an avatar built in. Otherwise, you can go to external websites like this one called Avatar Maker. And students will have a lot of fun choosing the gender and then choosing their face shape, and the eye color, their hair color, what clothes they're going to wear, and describing how these images may still look like us, but how they are a safer alternative to just putting their photo online. You can also discuss who might see this avatar once it's posted online.
So the eSafety Commissioner has organised the development of a book, Swoosh Glide, and Rule Number 5. This is a story about a sugar glider family that have a sleepover, and a device ends up within the sleepover, and then they have to look at information. What can they share? What's personal? What's private? What's really good about this is that you can look at a digital copy of it online, or better still, Jimmy Reeves from Giggle and Hoop fame reads the story out to the students as well. There are a number of resources that also go with this, and they can support teachers, such as students making a mask. And a bit like we've just had the avatar, where we don't want to show our image, but something that represents ourselves. Equally so with the mask, students can make a mask and put that on as they're hiding their face, and they can be seen as a sugar glider instead. There are story puzzles that are in there for students to try and work through, as well as some posters. They have some educator notes, so it's a really good idea to take a look at those and get a detailed overview of how you can use the story. And there are also some other videos there around being kind, being safe, asking for help, and making good choices. And making a choice between what you share personal information or private information is about teaching good choices as well. So now let's take a look at some activities and resources that can assist teaching for our Year 1 and 2 classes. So looking at the content descriptions, they show the area of privacy and security and how it can be addressed using activities that target number 1, the difference between personal and public data. So we've looked at that at foundation. Well, now we're carrying that through in years 1 and 2. We're looking at using usernames and passwords to sign into school accounts. And quite often schools use generic accounts at this age level, but it's a good idea for students to start using their own and get used to typing in a username and a password. And we're going to be looking at how data is collected by apps and websites. So consider what sort of data you do want to share and don't want to share. And it's always a good idea for asking permission from parents or carers before sharing any data. And then just looking at general security by being safe online. This activity, which is around private and public data and knowing what to share and not to share, has been developed by the Common Sense org. They have an activity there that's called That's Private, and it outlines what private information is and what should or should not be shared. And you can see a list of things there on the screen, and next to it I've got what's private and again what might be public or personal. And we're asking our students, what kinds of information should I keep to myself when I'm on the internet? And alongside that, there's a video that also supports explaining to students what's private and what's personal. We also have on the eSafety Commission, you'll find these activities that unpack about personal and private data. So we have the Mighty Heroes, 4 Australian characters, and they go through different parts of the sorts of being safe, being secure, and being private. And the one I want to bring to your attention is Wanda, the echidna. Her superpower is being responsible, and she helps her friends to stay safe when they're online. This is a 2-minute video, and they present a scenario of her friend, Dusty, who's almost about to share some private log-on details to a game account to a friend online. And firstly, Wanda points out we shouldn't be sharing this type of private information. And secondly, is the person who's online really that person asking, or is it someone impersonating them? So it's a good idea to work through the teacher notes, and they provide you with some ideas on how students can keep their information private and safe. And it's always a good idea for students to learn about asking permission from parents or carers about what sorts of things they should be sharing, what kind of data is safe to share online. So another activity is using a hand and having 5 trusted adults as part of our circle. And on the hand, the students write the name of the adults that they feel that they could go to if they have questions about data and safety and security.
Another activity to help students understand the difference between personal and public data could include this audio example. This one will give students, they can either work independently or as a class, and it will give them a chance to listen to each audio file and decide if it's personal or public data and discuss why.
Share my favourite footy team.
Yeah, so the students would match up share my favourite footy team with the green tile of footy team just by dragging it. And then we would have a discussion around whether this is personal data, your favourite footy team, or if it's public data.
Share your dog's name.
I think they're both personal, but there's something that you could share in a public forum. And it's okay to share your dog's name or your footy team, but you wouldn't use those as your password.
No. Okay, let's try one more.
Share my username with my friend.
Sharing the username this time. What do you think?
Yep, that's definitely private. And I think we just saw in that previous example with our mighty heroes that's exactly what Dusty was going to do, share his username and his password. So definitely don't want to do that.
The next one, also teaching about the personal and public data difference, is an online memory card game. And this one, I choose 2 different cards. One's got an image and one has the text, and they're trying to match them up. And once they've got their match, they decide if it's personal or public. And like your username. Favorite food, no match.
Is that a username?
Yeah, let's try.
Wow.
Great. And then they say, oh no, that's too personal to share. And they would keep going till they've matched them all. Password.
Oh, I think that's your age.
Yeah. And we'll say, oh no, too personal. Great. So just another example. And there's one more.
Oh, dog's name. Is that there? There we go. And that's okay to share.
Great.
Were they easy to make, Marnie?
Yes, very easy. So this program is an online free program, and you just put your own content, so you can use it for any number of tasks in the classroom. Okay, the next one is for a little bit older kids who can read the text. So it's an online trivia session where students are asked if they would share certain details, and they have to decide if it's too personal or if it's personal or public data. So this example, can I share my pet's name? They would have to answer personal or public. Other examples of when addressing the content description of accessing the school account with a recorded username and password. This is an example from Grok, actually, an unplugged activity that looks into creating strong passwords that you can remember and the importance of keeping them a secret. So I've just got some examples of the pages, talking about making it quite long with 8 characters, if they can use letters, numbers, and symbols to make it more secure, and then even using capital letters. So just getting the building blocks for later lessons in grade 3 to 6, where they get more secure with their passwords. The DinoPass website is also a great tool for younger students. because it helps them create easy to remember unique passwords that can be used for school or personal accounts. They have two options. They can click on the first option to create a simple password, which just uses lowercase letters and numbers, or they can click on the strong password, which gives them a mix of upper and lower special characters and numbers. This is beginning their journey in how to make their own passwords more secure.
So if I click on simple password, it gives me Big Mint 97. If I click on it again, I'll get Funny Nail 38. So it looks like it's getting two words, joining them together. The words are not related in any way. And there's also two numbers on the end. If I go to the strong password, then it's added in a symbol and a capital letter. So that one looks like it might be a noisy foot, 57, using the $ for the S. Or dizzy car, 42, use the number 2 as the letter Z.
The last area of the content description to touch on is how data is collected by apps and websites and the importance of asking permission from parents or carers before we start sharing data. So one way to start these discussions in class is around students using games at home, asking students for examples of their own usernames and deciding as a class, does it fit with the public or personal data sharing? And then showing examples of easy to remember usernames and discussing how they can create their own usernames that are still can be remembered, but they don't reveal anything about their real name, their address, their age, or their school.
So now we're going to look at assessment, and we need to assess each of our areas and mix up our formative and summative assessment to check our students' understandings. So what have they learnt with the various activities? We need to begin with the achievement standard and identify the element that's applicable. So for instance, in foundation, we need to be sure that the students can identify examples of data that is owned by them. And this fits with that private and public activities that we were looking at previously. In years 1 and 2, we're looking at students accessing and using digital systems for a purpose. And again, that comes in with our usernames and passwords. And our students recognise that digital tools may store their personal data online. So again, we need to make sure that they understand those differences between what's, personal and private, and keeping things safe and secure, which includes usernames and passwords as well.
So these activities that we've already discussed can be used anecdotally as part of a whole class discussion for assessment, or they can be unplugged worksheets as well. So this is a version of the same fortune cookie data activity where students make decisions on the personal versus the public data, but this one's a cut and paste. So they would cut out the examples and put them in the fortune cookie for public data or private data. An alternative to this task is that they create their own cards and they can group them themselves.
Marnie, I noticed that it says fortune data at the bottom. Have you created a worksheet?
Yes, if you click on the link, it will go to a worksheet that teachers can use.
And that'll be in our supporting resources later?
Yeah, on the last slide of this presentation, actually, we've got all of the resources that we've used. Similarly, this is another unplugged activity based on that one that we showed before with the memory cards. This one requires students to match the image to the text and then to colour in all of the examples of personal data in red and all of the public data in green, giving teachers an example of, or evidence, I guess, of their understanding. An alternative task could be that students record an audio for their teacher, just explaining what public data is and what personal data is with examples. Final one, students can create an online quiz where the results can be saved as evidence of their understanding, or they could develop their own quiz questions for junior students, perhaps using something like Kahoot. Teachers can also create their own rubrics. I've put a few examples here. They can do this in a variety of ways to enable students to reflect on their own learning in these areas, as well as providing the opportunity for teachers to track their understanding of each area.
I like the way you've used the faces. We'd like to now share with you a range of other supporting resources across the years of Foundation to Year 2 that can also assist in students learning about privacy and security. And the first one I want to bring to your attention is Hector's World. This is a series about an underwater world where the friends experience various adventures about protecting their personal data. This is a great resource for lower primary classes and can be used as a tune-in for each lesson on protecting personal information. It has 5 engaging animated episodes that talk about how the friends learn, quite often in the hardest way, about importance of protecting their personal information. It also alludes to having safe people in their life who they can talk to about problems and whether or not they should be sharing data. Each video is supported with lesson plans and worksheets offering children practical guidance on staying safe and managing their risks online. Along with that, on the eSafety Commissioner's website, there's a page to assist students and support the younger students if they have any questions relating to staying safe and secure online. And there are teacher ideas and lesson topics as well. So in this first one, we can see that we want to be an eSafe kid. And so there are opportunities to learn about how to be safe, how to be kind, how to be curious, and how to be secure. And if you click on the one that says how to be secure, it goes through a range of information that you can share with your students about staying secure online. The second one is about wanting help, and there are a range of different activities there. The one I want to draw your attention to is the one that says sharing photos and my personal information online. Again, another really good opportunity for students to look at some things around their data and what is okay to share and not okay to share. Kim Maslin has written a series of 4 books, and it's called the Tweeting Galah series. The Tweeting Galah was the first story she wrote, and they use Australian characters there to start some conversations about how to stay safe and keep your information private and secure. The book is set out in chapters, and there is some lesson plans that go with it. We're seeing things through the eyes of these cartoon-like Australian animal characters. The follow-up book is The Surfing Penguin, and then The Little Possum Who Looked Up. It's a story about a family who are so engrossed in their devices that they forget to look up and see who's actually there. And then the final one is The Zooming Owl. And Grok Academy has also teamed up with a Cyber Marvel project. This is a collaborative initiative with the New South Wales, ACT, Tasmanian, South Australian, Northern Territory and Victorian Departments of Education. And it's looking at cybersecurity education with providers across Australia. And here we're keen to actively build staff and students' awareness and skills in staying safe and secure online, and to make sure that behaviours and experiences for our students are positive ones. So on this page, you'll find a range of our cybersecurity resources and what we have provided to support the Cyber Marvel program. You'll also notice on the ChildNet website that you can download a Be Smart online poster, and you can display this in your classroom or maybe near your computers as a good reminder to students about keeping their things both private and safe and being secure online and developing those positive behaviours. There's also a set of 6 short videos that unpack each of these concepts outlined on the poster. And the videos are very simple, clear online messages tailored for children aged between 6 and 9 years old. They're 10 to 15 minutes of fun activities, games, and discussion points as well.
A great tune-in that I've found for young students is picture books. So this one called Goldilocks, a #cautionary tale, discusses online safety as told through the eyes of the characters. It includes Goldilocks sharing images of the 3 bears without their permission. So many activities can lend itself to this sort of a tuning. Another great book, Warning of the Dangers of Sharing Personal Information Online, is The Fabulous Friend Machine by Nick Bland. This is told in the eyes of a chicken who lets a fox that she doesn't know into her hen house by sharing too many details about herself. Grok actually has its own digital detective cards. So these pose different scenarios for students to discuss and then decide on a choice of 2 or 3 options, which one they would take. It allows much discussion about the dangers of being online and opportunities to act safely. If you would like your own digital detective cards from Grok, these can be ordered and sent to your school just by scanning this QR code or clicking on this link. Some examples of my own students' work samples are here. Will your digital footprint be positive? Talking about digital footprints, this falls into the year 3 to 6 curriculum, but these discussions in the early years with Foundation to Grade 2 are really the starting point about their online presence. Some more examples where students have decided to share or not share their data, and we discuss whether it passes the Nana test. So this means, would they share whatever they're about to post online with their grandma or Nana? And if the answer is no, then they definitely should not be sharing online.
And in February, the eSafety Commissioner promotes the Safer Internet Day. So this is a good time to engage in activities. And then in May, the Alana and Madeline Foundation promotes National eSmart Week. These provide schools with an opportunity to make security and privacy and safety a priority across the school, and for students to know where to turn to should things be a bit difficult online. We've also got Kids Helpline, which offer a variety of resources as well. So on this page, you can see all the resources that we've highlighted today to you, and that we encourage you to go in and explore them more, and then make some decisions around what's going to work in your context for your students, and to be sure that you start to look at the privacy and security area of the digital technologies curriculum. So thanks for being part of our deep dive into privacy and security and what's new in the version 9 Australian curriculum. We hope that you found this presentation informative, and you can walk away with some tried and tested activities ready to use in your own classrooms when targeting this area of the digital technologies curriculum. The next session, we'll be looking at digital literacy for primary schools. Grok's mission is to educate all learners in transformative computing skills, knowledge and dispositions. And in case you missed the recent announcement, Grok Academy has entered a 5-year partnership with WiseTech Global to make learning digital technology skills available to every Australian student, teacher, parent and adult learner for free. And this partnership with WiseTech removes that financial barrier to schools in using our resources, as well as allowing us to expand our team to continue to support schools, teachers and learners. So if you'd like to contact us, feel free to email at help@grokacademy.org or jump onto the website www.grokacademy.org to find out more. Thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.